Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we get 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the press sign break in your call sign. Is emergency or priority traffic? A directed net. Please do not transmit without direction for net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins in the Echo Link are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echo Link mode 37247. Astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Society events, discussion topic of the evening, space exploration and space history, Was Up, constellation of the week, astronomical object of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. This time I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX. If you will do the check-in honors, please.
All right, Miss Billy, I'll do exactly that. This is KE5ICX. My name is Tom. I'll be your alternate net control and take check-ins this evening. We'll begin by taking low-power short-time check-ins. If you're one of those, please come with your call sign, phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen, short time.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
Okay, got the two, N5WOI, William, and Alan. He's short time, W5GUS, Gus, far northeast, Dallas, low power. Anyone else, low power, short time? right, I'm going to assume neither of you have any announcements as you haven't before, and you're the usual low-power short-time check-in, so we'll just continue on. I'll go ahead and take regular check-ins, RF only. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa, Mike and Richardson.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima Bill, Farmers Ranch.
Kilo 5 Alpha November Papa, Allen in Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Kilo Alpha 6, Echo Tango Sierra, Phil, Mesquite.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy Rowlett.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
5, Papa Hotel, John, Plano.
Whiskey 5, Lima Hotel Juliet, Don in Plano.
All right, let's stop there. There was one double, so if you don't hear your call, we'll pick you up in the next round. I've got, let's see, N5VB, Bill in Irving, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, AG5PM, Rich in Rockwall, KG5P, Mike in Richardson, K5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, K5ANP, Allen in Dallas, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, KA6ETS, Phil in Mesquite, and this is the Mesquite contingent, so he's first. KF5JJ, Chaz in Mesquite, KG5UKU, David in Mesquite, KG5W, WYL, Kim's in... Did I get your call right, James? I'm sorry.
That's Kilo 5, Ski Victor Lima, James.
Okay, James, I looked at it. I couldn't decide if that was a Y or a V, so I've got you. Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton, K5 KTX Miss Kelly in Quinlan, K5 GLD Randy in Rowlett. Welcome, Randy. KG5 PPL, that's Richard in Dallas. Now, the next call, there was a double, and I've got Papa Alpha Hotel, John in Plano. John, can you give me your full call, please?
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Hotel, John, Plano.
All right, I hope I got this right. Right, so it's Kilo Golf 5 Papa Alpha Hotel. Is that right, John?
Papa Hotel, 2 P's.
Very good, John. I'm glad I asked you. So it's KG5PPH, John in Plano, and then another, a Don, also in Plano, W5LHJ. I'll take additional check-ins over air. Please come down.
Whiskey 5 Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
All right, I picked up 2 more. I've got W5EVB, David in Dallas, and then I think, Patrick, I put you down as someone else earlier, KG5 Alpha Papa Lima. So I'm going to scratch number 18 there, which I think is you, because the voice is identical. Okay, anyone else over air before I move over to Echolink? Over air only.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel.
All right, I've got KI5GRH. Believe that's Melissa in Dallas. I have you checked in. I will now go over to Echolink. If you'd like to join us via Echolink, I'll give you extra time to check in. So Echolink only. Please come now.
So Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford. Golf 5 Juliet Delta Whiskey John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Forward.
Kilo 5 Juliet Delta Whiskey John in Norman, Oklahoma.
All right, it's rare, but it does happen. There was a double on Echolink. It's almost impossible, but 2 people keyed up at exactly the same time, so I lost one of you. I've got KG5BZW, Jay near Weatherford. Welcome back. I've got John, K5JDW, probably in Norman. And there was another station, but John covered you over, so please come back again.
This is Kilo India 5 Bravo November Papa, Luis in forward.
All right, very good. You were the double. KI5BNP, that's Luis over in Fort Worth. Welcome, Luis. All right, anyone else, any mode, like to join us this evening? Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Mike 5 Lima, Patrick in Dallas. Howdy.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Papa Dean in Forney.
Very good. Picked up 2 more. KM5L, Patrick in Dallas. Hi, Patrick. KG5BZP, Dean in Forney. Welcome, Dean. All right. Well, that was pretty healthy check-in. 27 check-ins on the first round. That's pretty darn good. So I'm going to send it back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom, and thanks to everyone who checked in the first round of Skynet. Let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be hams, astronomical space, or general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
PM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. It's been my misfortune to miss a lot of Skynets lately. I'm really glad to be here with you as Net Control. Great to hear you. I'd like to remind everyone of two things. First, of course, that this is not our last net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion coming up. We're going to be talking about the very quirky, not science fiction, but kind of unique movie, They Might Be Giants from 1971. And, of course, Memorial Day is a very somber day, but it also always coincides with GeekNet. So this Monday at 7 p.m. right here in this repeater, we will be having the regular GeekNet. Any topic is welcome that you like to geek out about, whether you are a collector of ferns or stamps, or you're fascinated by butterflies or vintage vacuum tubes. It doesn't matter, ham radio related or not. Any exciting news of the strange and weird or topics that you'd like to discuss is welcome this Monday at 7 for the GeekNet. Thank you very much. This is NT5TM.
Thank you very much, Tony. Do we have any other announcements this evening? If so, please come now with your call sign.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Five BB. Bill, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Hi, Billy. There is a VE session tomorrow, Sunday, May 24th, at 3 p.m. at the Copper Canyon Town Hall in Copper Canyon in Denton County. Mike at K5YX is the contact person. It's an in-person social distance session, and attendees must wear masks. I'll leave everything else for my National Space Society section in 5BB.
Sounds good, Bill. I do have a question about that. Is there a website that folks could go to see that information? And I'll call on you again for the National Space Society. But do you know if there's a website for the Copper Canyon and VE testing? It might be good to give that over the air.
There probably is, but I don't know it. All I know is it's tomorrow at 3 p.m. at 400 Woodland Drive, Copper Canyon, Texas, 75077. If anybody wants to find more information, they can try to contact Mike, K5 Yankee X-Ray. But I have no idea if there's any website. Sorry, N5BB.
I wanted to ask, with the details you've given, I'm sure people will be able to find it. So thanks for bringing that information to the announcements. Does anyone else have any announcements? If so, please come out. Sorry. Not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on the website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSATnet Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC has settlements on Monday nights. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. If you enjoy getting new recipes, sharing recipes, if you have a question about food, an anecdote, or just want to come and jot down the recipes that are given on the air, please join us for Ham Fixin's Net. This Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. The third Monday of the month is the second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. And fourth Monday, as Tony mentioned, is GeekNet. So please do join. Those nets usually start 7 p.m. And Saturday is just the night of nets, with 10 nets going from 7 to 8 p.m. And of course, 9 p.m. is Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, after the Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net. We'll have more information on that shortly. The ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as mentioned, following Skynet, you'll be able to join the Afterglow Movie Net at 10:30. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info.
Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. Listen up, everybody. There'll be a test. Tonight's Afterglow info is: Justin Playfair stared at the television screen in disbelief. It was as if someone had wrenched his heart out. He'd just seen Holmes and Watson, the latest Will Ferrell misfire. He sighed deeply. I can't believe they do this stuff. Playfair was very unhappy and Playfair was very unhappy and rummaged through his closet, mumbling to himself, I can do a better job than that half-wit. From inside the closet, a pair of pearl-handled revolvers bounced on the floor, then a white lab coat and a box of stale dolphin food. He reemerged with a magnifying glass, hunting hat, and pipe. I will show them, he said, and left the house. Join us for the not-so-science fiction movie, but mentioned more than once during Afterglow Movie Net, is this week's Afterglow movie assignment, which was They Might Be Giants from 1971. Yes, it was a movie before it was a band. Tonight at 10:30. Back to you, Miss Billy, from the guy who can't talk, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And as I said, you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. At this time, we have additional check-ins. So, Tom, if you will check to see if we have any additional check-ins before we move on to our next segment, I'd appreciate it. This is KF5CDS to KE5ICX.
All right, I can do that. I'll take additional check-in.
0 Mike Bravo, Shane in Blue Spring with
Bethany.
Come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Tom, there's a double with you via Echolink inside BB.
Okay, I think I know who it might be. Let's see, I'll go ahead and take the Echolink check-in, and I think I know who it is, but please go ahead.
Whiskey 0 Mike Bravo Charlie, Shane and
Bethany, Blue Spring, Missouri.
Very good. That's who I suspected, W0MBC. and that would be Shane and Bassany. Hi, Bassany, from Blue Springs, Missouri. We have you checked in. All right. Anyone else who'd like to check in, please come now. All right, that's all I got. 29 check-ins. So back to you, Miss Billy, from KE5ICX.
Great, thank you. This is KF5TF Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, we'll see if anyone on frequency has information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. If so, please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
JHH has. I see you changed your identification from Earth to USA. Are you landing your spacecraft? If so, please come now with information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas.
Now, for those of you that don't have Echolink up on your computer right now, I changed my location from Earth to USA. I'm narrowing it down. Wonder what I'm going to do next week. I guess you'll need to tune in. Okay, yes, this is KF5JHHS, and the Texas Astronomical Society has, well, meetings on the fourth Friday of each month. Last night, we had a meeting. It was a virtual one, not face-to-face. We had Dr. Phil Marshall from the Rubin Observatory in Chile. Work there has been delayed due, of course, to COVID, but it's going to be the world's largest camera taking pictures of the entire sky in just a matter of a couple of days. And then it's going to be doing it for, I think, 10 years, if I remember right. And it has petabytes of data that it stores on a regular basis. What is it, like 100 gigabytes per picture, I think? Anyway, it's really big. Large images. So anyway, kind of cool. I'm sorry you missed it. I think it may be posted sometime in the future. If it is, I'll let you know about that. But the Texas Astronomical Society does have meetings. The next one will be on June the 6th. It'll be another virtual one. Don Pettit, a NASA astronaut, is going to be there. Hey, there's somebody on this net right now that has actually interviewed him. And somebody else, maybe net control, that was sitting right beside him while he was being interviewed 5 years ago. Maybe she can talk about that later. But Don Pettit on June the 26th. If you're a member and standing of the Texas Astronomical Society, you'll receive an email to the link, the Zoom meeting, about a week or so before the meeting. If you are not a member but wish to attend, please contact our president. That information can be found at texasastro.org. And I hope sometime in the near future we'll resume our Saturday night observing sessions. This is KFJ. Back to you, Billy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. And yeah, just to follow up with that 1 petabyte of data, 10 to the 15th bytes of data, which is equivalent to 1,000 terabytes or 1,000,000 gigabytes. So it is big. All right. So thank you very much for bringing that information. I have a cat on my lap, so I'm having difficulty trying to get to the next thing here. So, because my kitty needs to get a license. Next up is National Space Society events and activities. So this time I'll call on Bill and DB if you'll bring us information about the National Space Society.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you. This is N5BB. Because of the COVID-19 shutdowns, National Space Society still doesn't have any local events or meetings. We're doing everything via conference calls, etc. But there's lots going on in the National Space Society. They've got a reorganized IT department, a lot of very active Zoom and other calls, and lots of stuff going on. Just yesterday morning, a week ago, I was on a conference call. No, it wasn't. I'm forgetting what day it was. But sometime in the last week, there was a conference call with Janet Ivey of Ivey's Planets for National Space Society members. So there's a lot going on, but it's not in person. In news related to human spacecraft, Annie Glenn, who is astronaut John Glenn's widow, passed away this last week at the age of 100 from COVID-19 complications. She was in a nursing home. Annie was a major figure in her own right, as well as being one of the Mercury 7 astronauts. She had a very bad stutter from an early age. But when she was age 53, she got some treatment and she could speak much better. She then became a major advocate for those with speech disorders. She eventually became an adjunct professor with Ohio State's speech pathology department. And in 1983, Annie Glenn received the first national award of the American Speech and Hearing Association for her meritorious service to those with communicative disorders. And the organization then decided to name the award after her. The first Annie Glenn Award she presented to James Earl Jones, who also grew up with a bad stutter and was able to get through that, obviously, with his acting and singing. So let's all remember Annie Glenn. In other space news, manned spacecraft news, this coming Wednesday, May 27th, is a really big deal. The SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule will launch on a Falcon 9 rocket to the ISS with two NASA astronauts, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. Both of these astronauts have been in the past to the ISS, so they're seasoned astronauts. And both of them are married to NASA astronauts. So it's a very special event. If everything works out okay, if I understand it correctly, they may stay at the ISS for up to 30 days maximum, but then they will come back to Earth in the Crew Dragon capsule, which will then land in the Atlantic and be recovered by a SpaceX crew from a ship. In the future, I think they're looking at doing landings on the solid ground, but this first mission is going to land in the Atlantic Ocean. Other things related to satellites and things, AO7 satellite, the AO7 AMSAT satellite is now nearly 46 years old. And here a few weeks ago, on May the 4th, there was a between LW2DAF in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and ZS1TA in Cape Town, South Africa. The contact was 4,329 miles across the South Atlantic. between South America and south end of Africa, with both stations aiming at only 2 or 3 degrees above the horizon. There's another item that's not directly related to space, but a U.S. federal judge in Virginia has given permission from the RMS Titanic's Marconi's wireless gear to be retrieved. The Titanic is not just a movie, it's a real event. The ship sank in 1912, some 370 miles off the coast of Newfoundland, and they're going to be retrieving the wireless equipment from it. This was right before vacuum tubes were introduced. That's all I've got in 5BB.
Thank you, Bill. This is KFI PDF, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is my topic, which is the NASA's Launch America, which, Bill, you touched on, and so I'll give a little more details, and we'll have other space news and announcements later in this set. So my talk is on the flight that's going to take place on Wednesday, so this article can be found on the nasa.gov website. So a new era of human spaceflight is set to begin as American customers once again launch on an American rocket from American soil to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. NASA astronauts Robert Bacon and Doug Lyrae will fly on SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft, lifting off on a Falcon 9 rocket at 4:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on May 27th from Launch Complex 39A in Florida for an extended stay at Space Station for the mission. The specific duration of the mission is to be determined. So if anybody has any more up-to-date information, sounds like Bill, you said they were going to stay at least 30 days, so that's recent. This article does not give a timeline, but there may be a more detailed timeline out there. As the flight test for the SpaceX, this mission validates the company's crew transportation system, including launch pad, rocket, spacecraft, and operational capabilities. This will also be the first time NASA astronauts will test spacecraft systems in orbit. Bacon and Hurley were among the first astronauts to begin working and training on SpaceX's next generation human space vehicle and were selected for their extensive test pilot and flight experience, including several missions on the space shuttle. Bacon will be the Joint Operations Commander for the mission, responsible for activities such as rendezvous, docking and undocking, as well as Demo 2 activities while the spacecraft is docked to the space station. He was selected as a NASA astronaut in 2000 and has completed 2 space shuttle flights. They include STS-123 in March 2008 and STS-130 in February of 2010, and he performed 3 spacewalks during each mission. Born in St. Anne, Missouri, he has a bachelor's degrees in physics and mechanical engineering from Washington University and earned a master's and doctorate in mechanical engineering from California Institute of Technology. Before joining NASA, Bacon was a flight test engineer with the U.S. Air Force. He will be the spacecraft commander for Demo 2, responsible for activities such as launch, landing, and recovery. He was scheduled as an astronaut, selected as an astronaut in 2000, and has completed 2 space flights. Hurley served as pilot and lead robotics operator for both STS-127 in July 2009 and STS-135, the final space shuttle mission, in July 2011. The New York native was born in Endicott, but considers Appalachia hometown. He also holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Tulane University in Louisiana and graduated from the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School in Maryland. Before joining NASA, he was a fighter pilot and test pilot in the Marine Corps. Lifting off from Launch Pad 9A atop a specially instrumented Falcon 9 rocket, Crew Dragon will accelerate its 2 passengers to approximately 17,000 miles per hour and put it on an intercept course to the International Space Station. Once in orbit, the crew in SpaceX Mission Control will verify the spacecraft is performing as intended by testing the environmental control system, the displays and control system, and the maneuvering thrust, among other things. 24 hours, Crew Dragon will be in position to rendezvous and dock with the space station. The spacecraft is designed to do this autonomously, but astronauts aboard the spacecraft at the station will be diligently monitoring approach and docking and can take control of the spacecraft if necessary. After successfully docking, Aiken and Hurley will be welcomed aboard station and will become members of the Expedition 63 crew. They will perform tests on Crew Dragon in addition to conducting research and other tasks with the space station crew. Although the Crew Dragon being used for this test flight can stay in orbit around 110 days, the specific mission duration will be determined once on station based on the readiness of the next commercial crew launch. The operational Crew Dragon spacecraft will be capable of staying in orbit for at least 210 days as a NASA requirement. Upon conclusion of mission, Crew Dragon will autonomously undock with the astronauts on board, depart the space station, and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. Upon splashdown just off Florida's Atlantic coast, the crew picked up at sea by SpaceX's Go Navigator recovery vessel and return to Cape Canaveral. The Demo 2 mission will be the final major step before NASA's commercial crew program certifies Crew Dragon for operational, long-duration missions to the space station. This certification and regular operation of Crew Dragon will enable NASA to continue the important research and technology investigations taking place on board station, which benefits people on Earth and lays the groundwork for the future exploration of the Moon and Mars, starting with the agency's Artemis program, which will land the first woman and the next man on the surface in 2024. So again, on Wednesday, May 27th at 4:33 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 3:32 p.m. our time, for this exciting event, and we look forward to seeing our rocket being launched from American soil with American astronauts. So go launch America. I'm looking forward to this very, very much. So this is KFI-CDS, your net control for the session of the ARC Skynet. Next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB5. You'll bring us the news on space exploration and space history this week.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. So this is a little redundant. Veteran NASA astronauts preparing to blast off in a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule shared their expectations for their approaching historic launch. I may skip the rest of this since we've already gone through this. Space-related birthdays. May 19th, 1939, Dick Scobie. 2 STS missions, and he died in the Challenger, unfortunately. We have May 17th, 1967, Joseph Acaba. He did 7 various flights. May 18th, 1930, Don L. Lind, STS-51B. May 20th, 1944, David M. Walker. He had 4 STS missions. May 21st, 1942, Robert C. Springer had 2 STS missions. And May 20th, 1951, Thomas Akers with 4 STS missions. And May 20th, 1964, Paul W. Richards, STS-102. All right, this week in space history. On April 18th, 1969, Apollo 10 launched. Apollo 10 was a May 1969 human spaceflight, the 4th crewed mission in the United States Apollo program, and the 2nd after Apollo 8 to orbit the moon. It was the F mission, dress rehearsal, for the first moon landing, testing all the components and procedures just short of actually landing astronauts Thomas Stafford and Gene Cernan. Short of actual landing. Astronauts Thomas Stafford and Gene Cernan flew the lunar module to a descent orbit within 8.4 nautical miles of the lunar surface. The point where powered descent for landing would begin. After orbiting the moon 31 times, Apollo 10 returned safely to Earth, and its success enabled the first actual landing of Apollo 11 2 months later. Apollo 10 set the record for the highest speed attained by a crewed vehicle, 39,897 kilometers per hour. The mission's call signs were the names of the Peanuts characters, Charlie Brown and Snoopy, who became Apollo 10's semi-official mascots. Peanuts character Charles Schultz also drew mission-related artwork for NASA. Then on May 24th, 1962, was the launch of Aurora 7. Mercury Atlas 7 launched May 24th, 1962, was the fourth crewed flight of Project Mercury. The spacecraft, named Aurora 7, was piloted by astronaut Scott Carpenter. He was the sixth human to fly in space. The mission used Mercury spacecraft number 18 and Atlas launch vehicle number 107B. The flight was for 3 Earth orbits, essentially a repeat of John Glenn's Mercury Atlas 6. However, a targeting error during re-entry took the spacecraft 250 miles off course, delaying recovery of Carpenter and the spacecraft for an hour. Carpenter was held responsible, at least in part, for the landing error. Carpenter left NASA for the Navy SEAL Lab program in 1964. All right, back to net. This is WB50ZL.
Great, thank you very much, Brenda. This is KF5TDS, Billy, net control for the session of the DARC Skynet. Next up, we have What's Up. So at this time, I'll call on Chad, KF5JHA, to give you a report on What's Up in the sky this week.
Good evening, everyone. How are all of you doing? I hope you're doing well. I was going to talk about something at the beginning of Skynet that you might go out and look at, but the clouds came in. We have big thunderstorms out in West Texas, and they're throwing their cloud tops over top of us, so we missed an interesting thing this evening, but we'll get to that. But thank you, Billy. Good evening. This is Chaz, KF5JHA, and my degree is in astrophysics. I work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. I'll be doing a similar thing as I did last week, and that is combining What's Up with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. The current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. Actually, it's a new moon, really. Actually, it's a waxing crescent, because yesterday was the new moon. Oh, I'm so mixed up. So actually, new moon was yesterday. Today is actually a waxing crescent. We could have seen the moon. Well, we'll get to that later. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. On May the 29th, the moon will be at its first quarter, and the moon will be full on June the 5th. On Thursday evening, on May the 21st, I was watching Venus in the low northwestern sky around 9 p.m., and I found Mercury to the lower left of Venus. It was difficult to see Mercury, but it was just barely visible to the unaided eyes. There were some clouds in the area, and within a few minutes, the hazy skies made Mercury impossible to see, and then a few minutes later, Venus disappeared because of the clouds as well. Tonight, we could have seen, if the clouds were clear, a thin crescent moon, Venus and Mercury forming a right triangle in the evening northwestern sky. Venus was at the apex of the triangle, and remember, on Thursday night, I was able to see Mercury in that hazy skies over Mesquite, Texas, around 9 o'clock. If you get up a little after midnight on June the 8th or 9th, you can find the moon next to Jupiter and Saturn. Remember that in December, Jupiter and Saturn on a particular couple of days will be so close together that they will appear as one object to the unaided eye. On June the 13th, the moon will be in conjunction with the planet Mars. Mars and the Earth are getting closer and closer to each other. In October, Mars and the Earth will be at their closest they've been since the summer of 2018. So that'll be interesting. The Texas Star Party would have been wrapping up tonight. The great giveaway would have happened tonight, but it was canceled. The Texas Star Party is a convening of primarily amateur, but also some professional astronomers from all over the world. And for many years, it's been held the week of new moon, mostly in the month of May, on the Prude Ranch located in the shadow of McDonald Observatory near Fort Davis, Texas. The Prude Ranch held a small star party instead. They called it the West Texas Star Party, and the weather's been pretty good to them, but only a few people have attended. We have a friend that went there as of Tuesday. He said he had only seen 6 people. 2 of those were him and his wife. And he said there was at least 19 people who have registered, but he's seen a couple of more people since Wednesday. So let me switch gears. Tonight, we again add to Was Up another segment, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, which is named in honor of a silent T, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn's contributed to Skynet each week from almost beginning in 2012 until May of last year, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 constellations out of the 88 total constellations visible in Texas throughout the year, Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Lyrae. Lyrae represents a small hand harp called a lyre. If you've seen a picture of an angel holding a harp, then you've seen a lyre. And if I harp on that too much about this constellation, you can just call me a liar. There are several interesting stars in Lyrae, Vega being a 5th brightest star in the entire sky. Other interesting stars in Lyrae include Shellac, Zeta, Lyrae, Epsilon Lyrae. Epsilon Lyrae is actually the famous double-double star, which is 2 pairs of stars. But I will let Mike, KG5P, give you details about one or all of these stars. I'll concentrate on other objects in Lyrae. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. So the first object I'm going to talk about is M56. It's a globular cluster that gets overlooked by many amateur astronomers. It is an easy target for binoculars as well as telescopes. It was discovered by Charles Messier himself on January 19th, 1779. A pair of 20 by 80 binoculars, you can see a faint fuzzball. I always talk about a 20 by 80 pair of binoculars because I own a pair. Actually, more than one pair. In an 8-inch or larger telescope at 100 power, you'll resolve some of the outer stars of the cluster. If sky conditions permit, using 200 magnification, then it'll allow you to resolve some of the inner stars, if not most of them, inside the cluster. Remember that a globular cluster of stars are old, formed at the same time as our galaxy. They have roughly all the same size stars, which is about 1 solar mass the size of our sun. The famous M object in Lyrae is M57. That's the one everyone looks at. It's the famous Ring Nebula. It's a planetary nebula. Planetary nebula have nothing to do with planets, but probably have gotten their names from being round in shape, just like a planet is in a telescope. Planetary nebulas are formed at the end of the stellar lifetimes of a red giant star. The red giant star swells and loses its outer layer, which becomes the round planetary nebula. What is left behind is a faint white dwarf star at the center of the nebula. M57 can be found in a 3-inch telescope, and I've seen it as a dot in my 20 by 80 binoculars. But historically, a 6-inch or larger telescope is usually needed to see the ring shape. The white dwarf central star in M57 is difficult to see and requires quality optics, high magnification, dark skies, and steady seeing, making it a challenging object. The minimum of a 12-inch aperture telescope is usually required, and some have seen it in a 9 or 10-inch telescope with exceptional quality. Now, at the 2018 Texas Star Party, that's a couple of years ago, a group of task members, including myself, observed the Ring Nebula, along with a number of other objects, using the 36-inch telescope at McDonald Observatory. Using that instrument, we observed the central star of M57. Now, just last year, in 2019, at the Texas Star Party, the McDonald Observatory made the historic 82-inch Otto Struve telescope available for those who signed up for a couple of special observing nights. Dennis Harwell and I signed up for the Saturday morning session that went from 2 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. One of the objects we observed was M57, and I'm happy to report that at 82 inches of aperture, it turned out that the central star of M57 wasn't a challenging object, but it was a very easy thing to see. And the last object I want to really talk about in detail is IC-1296. That had to do with the catalog, the IC, but most of the time when you see something that's labeled IC, that means you can't really see it because it's really kind of faint to see. But IC-1296 is a barred spiral galaxy lying just 5 arcseconds northwest of M57, the Ring Nebula, discovered by the famous astronomer E.E. Barnard. This 15th magnitude galaxy was mentioned by the late Walter Scott Houston, author of the Deep Sky Wonders column in Sky and Telescope magazine. Fortunately, due to its proximity to M57, we got to see IC-1296 during the special observing session night on the 82-inch telescope at last year's Texas Star Party. Just like it did for the central star of M57, the 82-inch telescope changed IC-1296 from a challenging object to an easy object to see. And we were able to see detailed structure in that galaxy. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. There is another 7 other astronomical observing program objects in the constellation of Lyrae. Just giving you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 60 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe about 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate in about a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Lyrae. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research on the deep sky objects that I've used tonight. Not sure what next week's constellation will cover, but we'll find out. The next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society, I've already told you, is on June the 26th, and it will be a virtual meeting as far as I know, unless something changed, because we usually have met at the University of Texas right there on Richardson and Campbell Road, but I don't think they're going to be open next month. So next month's meeting on June 26th will be a virtual meeting. Remember, Don Pettit, NASA astronaut, will be our featured speaker. It will be great. And since this is a virtual meeting, parking will not be a problem. Hopefully we'll have face-to-face meetings and public observing sessions after this shelter place is all over. I hope it's soon. Check out the website, texasastro.org, for details. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do you have just a general question on astronomy? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
Kilo Golf 5 Papa with a question.
I don't know why I know the name attached to that call sign. His name must be Mike. Mike, go ahead. Let me know your question.
All right, interesting discussion, Chaz. My question is, here's the question. What is the difference between astrology and astronomy? What is the difference between astrology and astronomy?
My simple answer is one's true and one's false. So what is your answer?
Well, that's certainly an acceptable answer. My answer was about approximately 50 IQ points. Back to net, KG5P.
That's substantially the same answer I gave you. Hey, John, K5JDW, that I believe is located in Norman, Oklahoma. You're on the chat session over here on Echo Link. You say you have a question. Fire it away.
Couldn't get the audio go here. I actually have a question about inner space. I understand there's a constant test to create the black coating, and I think there's something out now called Black 3.0 or something like that, and it's really not as black as this black nanocarbon tube thing that the NIST in Boulder's promoting that apparently reflects, for all intent purposes, no visible light, and greatly attenuates reflection near the IR, or near IR, should I say, and near UV. So my question is, are there any astronomer purists out there using anything like this to coat the inside of their telescopes? And Mike chime into it if he needs to.
Well, John, that's a very good question. I don't know. But I wonder if we can get some of those SpaceX satellites painted with it. By the way, Dr. Phil Marshall, that spoke at the task meeting last night, talked a little bit about the SpaceX, all those swarms of satellites, and they're trying to figure out ways of minimizing their impacts on their photographic survey of the sky over the next 10 years. So some of the satellites have been painted a little bit darker color, but still it looks like it's going to be a big problem. So that's a great question, John. I don't know the answer to that question. Is there anyone out there that has painted the inside of their telescope with something like that? Okay, I'm going to say no one has that we've heard about that. So, I'll tell you what, as the moon has been waning up until just a few days ago, so do these words. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world, and until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control. Here she is. Let's hear it. A big round of applause for Billy, KF5PDS. Yay!
Jazz, thank you very much. Thank you. You're all beautiful. Thank you. Please, no autographs. This is KI-PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Right, next up is Astronomical Object Week. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Mike, KG5P. Net is yours.
goodness, my transmitter is getting flaky. I'm going to have to reset the CPU on this thing. Haven't done it in a couple of years. It's really flaky. All right, thank you, Billy. What I'm going to do is talk about a couple stars, or star systems in Lyrae. Now Chaz talked about Lyrae in general, and I'll get specific. Okay, well, one of the stars in Alpha Lyrae is Vega in Alpha Lyrae. Okay, Vega is probably the brightest star in the constellation. In fact, it's the fifth brightest star in the sky. It's a bluish white star with a magnitude of 0.03, which is really bright. It's sometimes called the harp star since it represents the heart of Orpheus in Greek mythology, and there's an opera called Orpheus, which I don't know much about. Vega is also the brightest of the three stars in the summer triangle, along with Deneb and Altair. Of course, we all know about Altair because it's the home of Forbidden Planet. And Vega and Arcturus dominate the northern summer sky. We talked about Arcturus last week. Okay, the name Vega comes from a loose translation, Vega, I guess, which is an Arabic word which means the swooping eagle, or something to that effect. It was also known to the ancient Egyptians, the Indian cultures, the Romans, the Chinese, and the Japanese. Now, Vega has been extensively studied by astronomers. It has the distinction of being the first star to be photographed in 1850 at the Harvard Observatory with a 15-inch refractor. It was also the first star to have its spectrum photographed. And if that's not enough, it was also the first to have its distance estimated through parallax measurements. And Vega served as the baseline for calibrating the photometric brightness scale. Now, about 12,000 BC, which even before Chaz was born, the Earth axis pointed towards Vega. At that time, Vega was the North Star, and Vega will also be the pole star again around 14,500 AD. I think I'm busy that night. Okay, I'm going to skip through all the gory details here, but Vega is a blue-white class A0 main sequence star, and it's only about 25.3 light years away, being one of the closest stars to Earth. Being nearby, Vega has a relatively high proper motion, which results in an angular movement of 1 degree every 11,000 years. A degree is about twice the distance of the diameter of the full moon. Okay, Vega will become the brightest star in the sky around 210,000 years from now. I think I'm busy that night too. I have to check my calendar. And it will maintain a peak brightness of about 0.81 in about 290,000 years. This will be the brightest star in the sky for about 270,000 years. Based on space motion, Vega belongs to a stellar association called the Castor Moving Group, which consists of about 16 stars, including Castor, which we've talked about, and Fomalhaut. And these stars group a membership that implies a common origin in an open cluster that has since become gravitationally unbound. Now, if you're an astronomer, there are only 2 elements on the periodic table. Only 2 elements. And those elements are helium, or I should say hydrogen, actually. Hydrogen and metals. Hydrogen and metals. Or maybe it's helium and metals, I don't know. So, you have helium and everything else, which making it what they call a weak lambda Boöte star. and it pulses with an amplitude of 0.03 over a period of 0.0107 days. But this has not been confirmed. Okay, enough of that nonsense. Okay, Vega rotates very rapidly with a velocity of 274 kilometers a second at the equator. Now this is 93% of the speed that would cause the star to break apart. And it causes Vega's equator to bulge outward 23% compared to its polar radius. Kind of like me after I've had about a super cheese pizza with extra pepperoni. Okay. Centrifugal effects also cause a temperature variation across Vega's photosphere from about 7,600 Kelvin at the equator to 10,000 Kelvin near the poles. And its luminosity is much more difficult than for a slowly rotating star, which comes out to be about 37 times the sun, which gives it a mass of about 2.3 suns and an age about 400 million years, which is a whippersnapper compared to the sun's age. Vega is a relatively young star fusing hydrogen into helium. Since massive stars fuse helium more quickly than smaller ones, Vega's main sequence lifetime is only about 1 billion years. And the sun right now is about 5 billion years. So after leaving the main sequence, it will become a Class N red giant and shed most of its mass, finally becoming a white dwarf. Okay, I'm going to skip forward really fast. As far as dusk and planets and stuff, the Vega has excessive infrared radiation, which is first detected by this infrared astronomical satellite in 1983, and indicates it has a dusky disk of particulate matter orbiting it. And there have really been no planets that have been directly observed around Vega, but the presence of a planetary system cannot be precluded. And because of that, the discovery of the dust disk, Vega played the role of a home to an alien civilization in the 1997 science fiction movie Contact, with Jodie Foster and all that, which I never cared much for that movie. I think it fell apart at the end. Okay, enough for Vega. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here pretty quick because I don't want to get into somebody else's spiel. But I want to talk about Epsilon Lyrae. This is a double-double star. Epsilon Lyrae is a binary star system in the constellation Lyrae, appearing just northwest of Vega. It is known as a double-double and probably the best known of all binary stars. Okay, Epsilon Lyrae can be resolved into two components and viewed through binoculars, like Chaz's 20 by 80s. Or even if you have really good eyeballs, which I don't anymore, maybe even by your own eyeballs. When viewed at higher magnifications, both of these two stars can be further split into binaries. That is, the system contains a pair of binary stars orbiting each other and is the benchmark for resolving power of telescopes, since the individual doubles are close together. Okay, the components of the stars Epsilon Lyrae have magnitudes of 4.7 and 6.2. And they're only about 16/100ths of a light year apart, so it would take hundreds of thousands of years to complete an orbit. Okay, and those stars are also divided into two parts each. So we actually have A, B, C, and D Lyrae. And although they look similar, there are really differences among them. In the four stars, there are four spectral classes and temperatures from 8,000 to 8,200 kelvins. And the whole system is probably about 800 or so million years old, and we don't know how many quadruples are formed, but they're so reasonably close that the pairs are far apart. So only a quadruple star can survive as to be a double, and the four are mixed close together. And you can see these tonight if you stay up late enough. Typically, Vega rises about, or Lyrae rises about maybe 11 o'clock tonight. At the Texas Star Party, I use them as calibration stars because they're very easy to identify. Okay, there's also a fifth component, and it was detected by interferometry in 1985. Okay, and so that's about it. I've bored you to death, so I'm going to kick it back to net. Back to net. This is KG5P. Oh, next week I think we'll do Coma Bernice's hair, which is also visible this time of year. Bernice's hair. Chaz will have a section on that, and so will I. So KG5P. Back to net.
Thank you very much. And Shane wishes all a good night. So guys, you and Bethany, so thanks for joining us. And y'all have a great evening. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your next call for this session, BARC Skynet. And thanks, Mike, for bringing all that great information on the stars in constellation Lyrae. All right, next up is space launches for this week. So this time I'll turn to Tom. If you'll check and see if we have any additional check-ins, Tom, and then you can do your segment. This is KF5PDS to KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX. I'm going to limit my stuff to just one thing on the space launches, and then I'll take check-ins. There has been an update. There was a to be determined on Cosmic Girl, the Boeing 747 from Virgin Galactic now. It looks like they may launch tomorrow. This just in recently. It's not been updated on their page, but that will be a Launcher 1 rocket, which will be launched from the modified Boeing 747 carrier jet. During that, they say will launch anywhere in a 4-hour window starting tomorrow, Sunday, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that would be, what, 10, 9, 8 a.m. our time tomorrow morning. If you happen to be up, it will be released from the belly of the Virgin Orbit's Boeing 747 carrier aircraft. So that should be pretty cool. We can get additional information at spaceflightnow.com under their news section and not necessarily under the spaceflight launch section. So let me go ahead and skip over to additional check-ins. Anybody else like to join us this evening? Please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is I'm transmitting from AF5TX BJ in Crandall.
This is KX7WTF, Sean from Benton.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
All right, very good. I got 4 additional check-ins, and Ted, you were first, WB4MFI. I recognized you immediately. I put you down, thank you. AF5TX BJ Crandall, got you down. KX7WTF Sean in Denton. KG5EIU, David in St. Paul. I've got y'all checked in. So we're up to 33 check-ins. Back to net control.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to our next segment of recent astronomical discoveries. This time I'll return it to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. My article tonight is entitled ALMA Spots Twinkling Heart of the Milky Way. Astronomers using the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array, ALMA, found quasi-periodic flickers in millimeter waves from the center of the Milky Way, Sagittarius A. The team interpreted these blinks to be due to the rotation of radio spots circling the supermassive black hole with an orbit radius smaller than that of Mercury. This is an interesting clue to investigate space-time with extreme gravity. It has been known that Sagittarius A sometimes flares up in millimeter wavelengths, says Yuhai Iwata, the lead author of the paper published in Astrophysical Journal Letters and a graduate student at Keio University, Japan. This time, using ALMA, we obtained high-quality data of radio wave intensity variation of Sagittarius A for 10 days, 70 minutes per day. Then we found two trends: quasi-periodic variations with a typical time scale of 30 minutes and hour-long slow variations. Astronomers presume that a supermassive black hole with a mass of 4 million suns is located at the center of Sagittarius A. Flares of Sagittarius A have been observed not only in millimeter wavelengths, but also in infrared light and X-ray. However, the variations detected with ALMA are much smaller than the ones previously detected, and it is possible that these levels of small variations always occur in Sagittarius A. The black hole itself does not produce any kind of emission. The source of the emission is the scorching gaseous disk around the black hole. The gas around the black hole does not go straight to the gravitational well, but it rotates around the black hole to form an accretion disk. The team focused on short time scale variations and found that the variation period of 30 minutes is comparable to the orbital period of the innermost edge of the accretion disk with a radius of 0.2 astronomical units. Of course, 1 astronomical unit corresponds to the distance between the Earth and the Sun, 150 million kilometers. For comparison, Mercury, the solar system's innermost planet, circles around the Sun at a distance of 0.4 astronomical units. Considering the colossal mass at the center of the black hole, its gravity is also extreme in the accretion disk. This emission could be related with some exotic phenomena occurring at the very vicinity of the supermassive black hole, says Tomoharu Oka, a professor at Keio University. The scenario is as follows. Hotspots are sporadically formed in the disk and circle around the black hole, emitting strong millimeter waves. According to Einstein's special relativity theory, the emission is largely amplified when the source is moving toward the observer with a speed comparable to that of light. The rotation speed of the inner edge of the accretion disk is quite large, so this extraordinary effect arises. The astronomers believe that this is the origin of the short-term variation of the millimeter emission from Sagittarius A. The team supposes that the variation might affect the effort to make an image of the supermassive black hole with the Event Horizon Telescope. In general, the faster the movement is, the more difficult it is to take a photo of the object, says Oka. Instead, the variation of the emission itself provides compelling insight for the gas motion. We may witness a very moment of gas absorption by the black hole with a long-term monitoring campaign with ALMA. The researchers aim to draw out independent information to understand the mystifying environment around the supermassive black hole. All right, that's the end. This comes from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next it is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. So at this time, I'll return it to Tom, E5ICX, if you'll give us that report, and then do a final check around and get me a final total for the CPSnet. I would greatly appreciate it. This is KF5TDS to KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy, and I'll do exactly that. Just wanted to let you know, let's see, we didn't have a lot of really good passes this week, although we've got a couple of good ones. The X-37B was recently launched back into space. We believe there's 2 of those winged unmanned spacecraft. One has returned to orbit with some various payloads that are actually not classified. The United States Space Force, USSF now. But there is 2 passes that look pretty good for that, and that would be one for May 27th. This one will be out of the south-southwest at 10:06 in the morning. 10:06. Hold on. I'm not sure what's happening here. Usually they give it in 24-hour time, but okay, it says 10:06. I'm going to say p.m. It reaches highest point at 10:08 at 51 degrees, and then it will fall at 10:11 to the east-northeast. That's on the 27th. On the 29th, by the way, there is no magnitude ever listed for the X-37. I don't know why. Maybe because it's not uniformly oriented the same way all the time, so you get a lot of light in one orientation and none on another. Or it could be variable. Let's see, May 29th, it says 9:48. I guess this is PM. I think this is messed up. I think they need to fix this, but it says it reaches highest point at 68 degrees at 9:49, and it'll fall at 9:52. So you may want to, let me double check my stuff here. Yeah, I think that's a mistake. It should have 24-hour time and something's messed up. So that's it. I don't have anything else beyond that for this evening. Let me go ahead and take final check-ins. This is your last chance. Please, if you'd like to check into tonight's net, please come with your call sign name where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo 5 Alpha November Echo, Kane in Richardson.
All right, we've got one final check-in, K5ANE, Kane, over in Richardson. So that brings our total count to 34 people this evening. Back to you, Miss Billy, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. A copy that tonight we had 34 hams participating on the air. So thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is K5TDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. So 7-3, everybody. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember to stay tuned for the Afterglow movie net following this net to discuss the 1971 movie, Vega.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly. Afterglow Movie Net.
And thank you, Billy, and thanks for doing a great net this evening. Yes, we'll be back. We'll take about a 5-minute break. They Might Be Giants from 1971 with George C. Scott, so come back then. Believe it or not, it may not be science fiction, but we've talked about this more than once. So come on back in 5 minutes, and we'll discuss this film. right, I guess I'm in the barrel today, so I get to be net control. A second time, well, I was alternate net control. I've been bumped up to the main seat. Well, it's the same seat I was in earlier, but it doesn't matter. This is KE5ICX. I will be net control tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net. Lucky me. So tonight's movie is They Might Be Giants. Not the band, but the movie. Although I did watch, after watching the movie last night, a bunch of their videos. They were very entertaining. The band, not the movie. Maybe in some ways the band was more entertaining than the movie, although I thought the movie was pretty good. All right, here's what we do. I'm going to go ahead and give a synopsis of the movie from my exhaustively investigated thing, which is Wikipedia. They always have all the information that I really need, and it makes you an instant genius. Then we go ahead and discuss the plot, the characterization, special effects after that, or music, or whatever you want to do, because this is one of those films, a little different than what we've done in the past. Although I think that, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes is kind of a science fiction-y type character anyway. One step removed, maybe his smarter brother. I don't know. In any case, we'll do that. So let me go ahead and give this analysis first, and we'll go forward. They Might Be Giants is a 1971 American comedy mystery film based on a play of the same name. Both were written by James Goldman, starring George C. Scott, yes, that guy, and Joanne Woodward, yes, that gal. Sometimes mistakenly described as a Broadway play, it never in fact opened in the United States. It was directed in London by Joan Littlewood in 1961. But Goldman believed that he never got the playwright and forbade further productions or publication of the script. To coincide with the film's release, he authorized an illustrated paperback tie-in edition of the screenplay published by Lancer Books. The film's title was later adapted as the name of a popular music group. So here's the plot. Justin Playfair, played by Scott, is a judge who retreats into a fantasy after his wife's death, imagining himself to be Sherlock Holmes, the legendary fictional detective. Complete with deerstalker hat, pipe, and violin, he spends his days in a homemade criminal laboratory obsessing over plots hatched by his, or Holmes' archenemy, Professor Moriarty. When his brother tries to place Justin under observation in a mental institution so he can get the power of attorney, Justin attracts the attention of Dr. Mildred Watson, played by Woodward, a psychiatrist who becomes fascinated by his case. Justin demonstrates to her a knack for what Holmes describes as deduction, though technically it's better categorized as abductive reasoning, and walks out of the institution during the ensuing confusion. Intrigued, Watson comes to his home to attempt treatment. Playfair is initially dismissive of Watson's attempts to psychoanalyze him, and he analyzes her instead. But when he hears her name, he enthusiastically incorporates her into his life as Dr. Watson, the sidekick to his Holmes. The duel began an enigmatic quest for Moriarty, with Playfair Holmes following all manner of bizarre and, to Watson, unintelligible clues, and encountering a rich tapestry of individualistic persons in associated urban situations, the two growing closer to each other in the process. Now this is pretty cool. I'm going to mention it because it is mentioned in this, and it is probably one of the better points in the movie, I think, that is really cool. It says, the defining quote: the title is an indirect reference to Don Quixote's famous exploit of tilting at windmills, believing them to be monstrous giants. Despite the protest of his aide, Sancho Panza, and being soundly defeated at the hands of the giants, that is, being tossed away by the mill's sail after getting his lance caught in it, Quixote maintains his belief that the mills are not buildings but giants. In reference to this, Playfair argues Of course, he carried it a bit too far. He thought that every windmill was a giant. That's insane. But thinking that it might be, well, that all the best minds used to think the world was flat. But what if it isn't? It might be round, and bread mold might be medicine. If we never looked at things and thought of what they might be, why, we'd all still be out there in the tall grass with the apes. And then just this line on the critical reviews. It just says the film opened to mixed reviews. Vincent Canby of the New York Times called it a mushy movie with occasional isolated moments of legitimate comedy. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an approval rating of 73% based on reviews from 11 critics. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and take check-ins now. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You may check in, but you may not be the first person asked. You may be the last person asked. So I know you're all going to hold. You're going to think differently. I get to pick the order. So please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Did you see They Might Be Giants? Please come now.
November 5, India Mike Sierra, JJ in Carrollton. Yes, I did see this fine film, and I also listened to the music.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I saw the movie, and yes, I like the band too.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving. I think I told you about both of these, Tom. And I like both of them. And yes, I saw the film.
This is Kilo India 5, India Sierra, India Eric in Richardson. And no, I didn't see the movie, but this is my favorite nut, and I wanted to check in.
My computer, my rig's acting up. This is KG5P. I did not see the movie, but I probably should have, and I will because I love George C. Scott.
This is Kilo 5, Alpha November Echo, Kane in Richardson. Yes, I saw the movie.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto, and yes, I saw the movie.
This is November Victor 5, Fox, Virginia in Fort Worth. I saw the movie and I've liked the band since 1990, NV5F.
QT9V, Michael Plano, and I admit to nothing. Actually, I've seen part of it.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo, Bravo. Yes, I saw it.
Kilo 5, Papa Mike November, James Echo Link. I saw the movie. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J. Near Westford on Nickel Lick. I saw the film.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, the Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did not get a chance to see the film, but I am a big fan of the band. I am also a fan since 1990. Flood was an amazing album, and now I have most of their albums. I love They Might Be Giants. K5PDS.
All right. right, well, that was a very healthy check-in. Let me get everybody checked in. I got N5IMS, that's JJ and Carrollton, yep. NT5TM, Tony Dow, yep. N5BB, Bill Irving, yep. KI5ISI, Eric and Richardson, no, he didn't see it, he likes the band. So we'll ask you about the band. KG5P, Mike and Richardson, nope, you didn't see it, you're missing out. It was quite entertaining, I thought. People have different opinions of it. It's not a 5-star movie, nor a 5-star general, but I kind of liked it. Kane, K5ANE, yep, you saw it. WB50ZL, Miss Brendan DeSoto, she says she saw it. Virginia, NV5F, yes, you saw the movie. Welcome to the net. I'm most curious about your thoughts on it. WT9V, Michael in Plano, yep. W5EVB, David, yep, you saw it. KG5PMN, James over in Oklahoma on Echo Link, yep, you saw it. KG5BZW, that's Jay in Weatherford, yep, you saw it. K5PDS, Miss Billy, nope, she didn't see it, but yep, she likes the band. Okay. Anyone else like to check in? Please come down.
KG5P comment.
All right, Michael, I'm doing check-in, Mike, but I'm doing check-in, so make it quick.
Well, I didn't hear any check-ins, but I'd just like to announce that KF5ISI just upgraded to general class. No, no small feet. KG5P.
All right, I'll allow that. That sounds good. What is it in the science fiction movies? Every time I object, they should put that person in a what do they call it? I don't know. In some sort of oscillatory sack, and the judge is whacked out. Says, "I'll allow it." So I'll allow it. Congratulations, Eric, on getting your general class. Now comes the expensive part. Okay. Anyone else like to check in? I'll explain that later. All right, so let me see what I'm going to do. I'm going to assign numbers because I said I would do that just to mix things up, and I have, and I'm number 12. Actually, wait a minute, I missed somebody. I missed 2 people, so that's number 12, 13, and 14. All right. Listen, everybody. W5EVV, you're first. KG5PMN, you're second. KI5ISI, you're third. And KG5P, you're fourth. Everybody else, I'll let you know as we go. So number 1, W5EVV, David, what did you think about the plot?
Oh, you're bringing randomness to this order. That's okay, though. Keeps us on our feet. The plot, well, like you said earlier, the Don Quixote reference, believing that windmills were giants, he was therefore either very imaginative or crazy, but if he had said that the windmills might be giants, then it would make him not crazy, but broad-minded, free-thinking, and open to possibilities. Now, it's true that in the midst of mostly insane people, is it not the sane person who is considered not normal? Abby, someone they might be called. This was exemplified in the theater scene with the regulars in attendance, all of them eccentric in their own way, but in spite of that, or maybe because of that, they had a unique bond and sense of community. It was the normal person, the doctor, who was the interloper, who was regarded as the troublemaker and a little off. Now, this whole movie, whether it's a delusion or Justin's affectation, whether it was whatever the cause of it was basically he was putting himself in an imaginary world, and that's becoming more and more common. it's not looked on necessarily as a as an affliction, but as an avocation. I remember back in the high school days, Dungeons and Dragons, and you had a few nerdy high schoolers, just a small subset of people. But now it's a global thing. There's a global alternative universe, particularly in online networked games like World of Minecraft, Roblox. Young people take it very seriously, and they build a permanent, persistent world that they all share. And at times it seems like some people even prefer that to the quote-unquote real world. And the strange thing is, we don't, as a society, really see that as a form of escapism, but, an acceptable alternative world. And I think that a new term that might come along is reality fluidity, where you can adapt your reality based on your particular preference or mood on a given day. W5EBB.
Thank you, David, and you brought up some excellent points, and I'm going to hold off because there's a lot of people on here, but you make some excellent points. A little asterisk by your name. Next up is James, KG5PMN. He's over on Echolink. James, what did you think about the plot?
Kilo 5, Papa Mike November. Just outside of Walton, Oklahoma. About the plot, my understanding he was chasing that Lyrae guy. Since I'm not a Sherlock Holmes fan and have really done much with him, I don't know, I just didn't really get that much out of the movie. It just seemed to be just, to me it just kind of drug along, and I didn't really see much of a plot there or much, what's going on that I could really understand about it. Back to the neck, XG5PMN.
All right, very good. Thank you, James. Next is Eric, KI5ISI, and then after that will be Mike. KI5ISI, Eric, go right ahead. What did you think of the plot?
Well, hello. Well, I'm sure it had one. Unfortunately, I've been very busy this week, and I did not get a chance to see the film. I was last minute studying for my test. Thank you, KG5P, for all your help. Also, I just got out of a 1,000-person Zoom meeting for the volunteer organization that I'm a part of, so I'm so happy to be here instead of doing that. I did have to look into something real quick when I was thinking about They Might Be Giants. And I thought, I wonder if, bands like Ween and Cake would exist without them. But I did a little bit of research and realized that they were formed in 1982. And Ween was formed in 1984, and Cake came along in 1991. So I think I was wrong on that one. So anyway, that's about all I got for now. Good to be on with you guys. This is one of my favorite nets to hang out in. So KI5ISI, back to net control.
Well, Eric, very good. And you mentioned you hadn't seen the movie. Well, go and watch it if you can. I think you'll enjoy it. And believe it or not, don't tell anybody. I think this is my favorite net too. Even though Skynet is the most work and the most intense as far as doing stuff. This net's the fun one. It's the decompressing net. So I like it a lot. All right, KG5P, Mike, you didn't see it, but you got anything to say? Do you know the band? I know you like George C. Scott, but you can't talk about George C. Scott for more than 30 seconds. That's all you get. And it's got to be in the form of a question from KE5ICX.
Oh, Tom, that's all I can talk about is George C. Scott. Brilliant actor, and I will watch this movie tomorrow. One of my movies, possibly the best movie ever made, was Dr. Strangelove. and he played General Buck Turgison. My God, what a role! What a role! He also played, of course, Patton. I mean, you can't say too much about George C. Scott, so that's all I'm going to say. Back to net, KG5P. He also played A Christmas Carol. He played Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, he was good in all those roles. I do like him as an actor, although some of his choices weren't always good, but he always played George C. Scott or Patton or something in just about everything. Oh, this one was a little more laid back. All right, let's see here. Number 5 is KG5BZW, that's Jay in Weatherford, and after him is Kane, K5A&E. So we'll start with Jay, KG5BZW. Go ahead, Jay. Your thoughts on plot?
KG5BZW here. Okay, plot. Well, okay. Let's say my negative thought. I didn't like how it just didn't really. I mean, I thought it fell apart at the end, but maybe that, I don't know. It's one of those things because, you know, of some of the source material and it's kind of hard to see how this movie would end any other way than something kind of like it did. So it's like I can't really keep hard on it for that. It did. Still, I have to say, because the fact that it narration, it just kind of strikes me as like, well, we don't really know what to do with this. This is kind of an interesting notion that we have it, but we don't really know how to end it, so we're just going to do this. Overall, it's a comedy. And I was amused throughout all of it, and I really did like it. Just that ending, but so it's kind of interesting though to consider things through the perspective of a comedy. What is the plot of a comedy film? I mean, if you really care, it's just if you're smiling or laughing or just kind of enjoying yourself through the movie, it's not exactly like it matters. It just kind of has to make sense, and it did mostly. I just think the resolution just bothered me. I'm repeating for some reason. That's all I have for now. KG5BZW, back to that.
All right, very good, Jay. Very good. And next is number 6 on the list is K5ANE. That's Kane. And then I'm going to insert as a 6A because I messed up JJN5IMS. He has prepared comments, so don't wait for the translator, you know. Okay, K5ANE, you are next from KE5ICX.
This is K5A&E. I gotta say, overall, I really liked this movie. There were a lot of good parts to it. The plot did seem to continue flowing pretty well. There was that kind of it's kind of a character building scene, but it kind of goes a little slow in the apartments. It seems like some of those shots could have probably been sped up a little bit. But the biggest thing that confused me about the plot was, you know, when he gathers all of his comrades together and they all go marching through the town and he does this, you know, heaven on earth speech, and then he's like, who's with me? And then, like, nobody's with him. I'm like, I don't know, it just seemed kind of strange to me as far as that it really built up to this point that maybe I didn't quite see exactly what that was supposed to be at the end. I don't know, because it kind of seemed like he was like getting acceptance into, as far as him being Sherlock Holmes, and that was what that was trying to address, but then it was really kind of showed that, like, well, actually, nobody's really with him, it seems. So, I don't know, maybe I'm taking the wrong thing out of that, but this actually kind of makes, like, the third movie I've seen recently now, where the ending, it's not a complete ending, which, is fine. It's nice that it's kind of nice that it doesn't tell you exactly what happens in the end, and kind of leaves it open to you to try and guess what exactly happened. But gosh, it seems like I'm watching a lot of those these days. Anyways, this is K5 A&E back to net control.
Good point. And as I didn't see the last 2 minutes of the movie because I couldn't wait, as I didn't know it was the very end of the movie. I haven't seen the very, very, very end of the movie, so people are going to have to fill me in. All right, next up is N5IMS. That's JJ over in Carrollton. JJ, you have a prepared statement. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Why, thank you. And Tom, just go ahead and let me know on chat if I run a bit long. I don't want to overdo it. But, it's kind of my discussion on the plot, which is somewhat of a summary and stuff. So, that's kind of how it goes. All right, the film starts out with Grandpa Munster dropping off a blackmail note to a wealthy man, also known as Universe Man. This note asks for 20 grand to keep the tawdry information quiet. Universe Man's brother, also known as Triangle Man, is a psychotic paranoid that believes he's Sherlock Holmes. Triangle Man takes the envelope and writes on the back, "No way," and gives it back to Grandpa Munster to return to the sender, whom Triangle Man believes to be his nemesis, Moriarty. Grandpa Munster indicates that he'll need payment to return this message, since it would count as an additional package. Triangle Man pays the fee and sends him on his way. I just hope that he can use the Munster mobile to deliver the packages. Universe Man takes Triangle Man to Bellevue Hospital to have him committed, allowing Universe Man to have access to Triangle Man's valuable trust fund. Universe Man requires Triangle Man's doctor, to sign his commitment papers, but Dr. Watson is busy with another patient, Person Man. Is he depressed, or is he a mess? Does he feel totally worthless? Who came up with Person Man? Degraded Man, Person Man. Let me reset. Triangle Man is glad to have finally met Dr. Watson, and Dr. Watson is pleased that Triangle Man has correctly diagnosed Person Man and gave him the appropriate treatment for him. Dr. Watson figures out that commitment might be wrong and escapes with Triangle from the hospital. During this escape, there was a brief fight in the hallway where Triangle Man, of course, wins. Universe Man figures that his plan to commit Triangle Man would not happen, so he thinks that if Triangle Man is killed, he can still collect the trust money. So a contract is put out on him. Although putting out a murder contract on his brother goes against Universe Man's usually being kind to smaller man, the contract is issued. Okay, enough references to They Might Be Giants song Particle Man from their 1990 album Flood. You're welcome. Let's see. Then I'll just abbreviate on the rest because that's probably enough and you went through most of the things, but basically they go through their various exploits and things, and my take on the bit where they're walking en masse through town is very similar to the very end of Buckaroo Banzai, where Buckaroo Banzai and his crew are walking down the L.A. River, with the great music in there, kind of ending up. But that's kind of an abbreviated version of what I wrote down but I do want to put the last comment. No animals were hurt during the writing of this recap. This N5IMS.
All right. Thank you, JJ. I'm not sure what to think at this point, but thank you, I think. Let's see. Next up is Miss Billy, KF5PDS, KF5PDS, and then after her is WB5OZL. That would be Miss Brenda. So first, Billy, KF5PDS. You didn't see the movie, but do you like They Might Be Giants? And he's right about the Buckaroo Banzai scene. It looks exactly like that without the music. Okay, you're up. KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I do hope to watch this. Dorsey Scott, he can play some wacky characters, and I'm glad that Mike mentioned his character from Dr. Strangelove. It was a great one. So he does great over-the-top characters, but yeah, I didn't get the chance to see but yes, I love the band They Might Be Giants. And as someone mentioned earlier that they were a fan since 1990, so was I. That was the year that I first encountered the album, and then found out that was their third album and promptly went to the record store to buy the first two. Actually wore that album out on like a 9-hour drive on cassette and memorized the whole album on the trip. To and from, I listened to nothing but Flood and absolutely love the band. They're quirky, offbeat, and crazy intelligent lyrics. You have to dive deep into the lyric pool and just love everything they write. It's just so cleverly done, and they're fun band to see live. If you've never seen them live, go see They Might Be Giants. You will not regret it. I think there's times leaps to my mind that I've seen them over the course of the years since 1990, and I saw them back then in those early days, and going forward as the decades went, you know, I've seen them only maybe 5 times, but I would go see them again in a heartbeat. They sell out fast, so if you ever do get a chance to see them. But I saw them back in the early days in 1990 when they were touring with the Flood album, and it was new, and right up until I think 2013 was the last time I saw them at House of Blues Dallas, which was a great venue to go see them. And there's so much fun, and just the energy of the crowd, and it's a real eclectic group of fans to that band. So I highly recommend going to see them live and get the album too. Flood is one of my favorites. Apollo 18 is probably, those are the 2 albums that I've pulled most out of. I've worn cassettes out on the 2 albums alone, but all the rest of their stuff is great. And they do have an app. There's the TMBG app, so go seek that out, because they'll change up, they'll keep like 5 songs on the playlist, and they'll add a new one each day and kick off. I think they add 3 and kick off 3. So each day, so you can play that, and it's a free app, so it's a lot of fun to listen to. And I think they have. I haven't checked their website out, but you can go check that out. They have all kinds of merch too if you're interested in that kind of thing. So anyway, I just love the band. So they're super fun to listen to and to rock out to if you get to see them live. So that's all I'll say about that. So return it to the net. This is K5TS at the net.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy. And I did watch, after the movie last night, I did watch a bunch of videos. In fact, I spent another hour watching videos, I think, music videos from the 80s and 90s, which was kind of interesting. And a great deal that was They Might Be Giants, which I kind of have a feeling, and I'll go back to them. I wasn't super familiar with them earlier, like you and Bill, but I kind of like them. Okay, let's see. This would be Miss Brenda is next. I'm looking at my list here. WB5OZL. You are next, and then number 9 on the list is Bill, N5BB. Honestly, I did this randomly, but somehow or another I've grouped you into whatever that would be. WB5OZL from KE5ICX, your thoughts on the plot?
That would be grouped into B's. This is WB5OZL. Well, I watched the movie twice this week. I kind of started it to see if it was going to work and got caught up in it. And then I watched it again last night. And the first time around, I didn't like it that much. The second, well, I mean, I did, but no, that much. But last night, I watched it again and liked it a lot. My first complaint was, well, it just kind of fizzled at the end. But I was misunderstanding the intent of the movie. This is not a movie about Sherlock Holmes. This is about two middle-aged, lonely people finding love. And, that was the theme. Whether or not Moriarty was there, who knows, who cares? The important part is that they were together. And it kind of reminded me of some of those Christmas movies where at the very end, we don't know if Santa exists, but then we hear the sleigh bells or the bells tinkle and an angel gets his wings. So you sort of had that. You heard something, and it's kind of up to you to decide whether it's real or not. So I thought that was kind of fun, really. And these actors, all the actors, were just amazing. Other actors could not have pulled this off. And little bits of humor here and there. The scene in the telephone company was hilarious. Just, kind of something they stuck in there. It did have some fairly unrelated scenes. The scene with the couple in the garden, I don't think it really advanced the story, or the grocery store scene at the end. Not sure what that was about, why we were doing all of that, but, it worked, and Scott got a BAFTA award for this, and I can see why. He can do no wrong. He's just a fabulous actor. That's all I have for now. Back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. And let's see here. Hold on, I got to figure out where we are. OZL. Yeah. Oh, Bill is next. Yeah, I was going to say, well, he got the BAFTA award because he was an American actor playing a pseudo-English character without an English accent. Oh, well, that doesn't work any better than the garden scene. Okay, next up is Bill, N5BB. Your thoughts on the plot, and then NT5TM, you're after that. So, Bill, N5BB, your thoughts on the plot from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, you made me number 9. If you draw that as a numeral and you spin it 180 degrees, you get number 6. But of course, you realize I am not a number. I am a person. Anyway, so there's multiple levels where you can look at this. So for those of you who have not seen it, this is a spoiler I'm going to tell you right now. Big spoiler. This is the basic plot. The basic plot is Blevins' Playfair has been blackmailed, and his brother Justin Playfair is the owner of a very expensive estate, has a lot of money, and Blevins, in order to get enough money to pay the blackmailer, finally comes to the conclusion. Originally, he was going to put Justin into a insane asylum, but eventually he or somebody else involved with the blackmail decide they have to kill Justin. And that's part of the plot. And it never gets resolved in the end, okay? At the end of the movie, that part of the plot is completely unresolved. Justin gets winged by a bullet. They're trying to kill him. But you don't find anything else after that about that part of the plot, okay? But that's not the interesting part of the plot. To really understand this movie, you need to look at the quotes, or the apparent quotes, at the very start and the very end, okay? At the very start, the quote is, Jehovah has the devil, Achilles has his heel, Mohammed has his mountain, Don Quixote has his windmills, and Sherlock Holmes, God bless him, has his Moriarty. For those not familiar with those allusions, you know, Jehovah is God against the devil. Achilles was the mythological character in Greek mythology who could only be killed by shooting his heel with an arrow. Mohammed, another religious character, of course, has his mountain. That's part of that religious sect. Don Quixote was a book, and Don Quixote was attacking windmills. He was confused. He thought they were big creatures. And Sherlock Holmes was another fictional character, and his nemesis was Moriarty. So for those of you who have not heard of Sherlock Holmes or not familiar with him, Moriarty was the nemesis, the creature, the person that Sherlock Holmes was trying to fight. Okay. I'm sorry. My radio got into a weird mode. 1 second. Okay, I think I'm okay now. So the quote at the end of the film was, "The human heart can see what is hidden to the eyes, and the heart knows things that the mind does not begin to understand." So you might think, where did that come from? Well, that is a rephrased version of a quote from a book called The Little Prince, published in about 1941, I think, by the French author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I can't pronounce his name correctly. He died a couple of years later, by the way, in World War II. He was an aviator. And by the way, to tie in with Skynet, this is from this book, The Little Prince, which is kind of written as a child's tale, but it's read by many adults. The Little Prince is an extraterrestrial. He lives on an asteroid, and he comes down and meets people here on the Earth. So the quote in The Little Prince is as follows: "It is only in the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." So that is the essence of the movie. Of course, I love the movie. So the movie is a romantic, I don't necessarily mean in the term love, but the term of romantic love, although there's some of that, but it's romantic and the romantic ideals kind of movie about truth and what is right, as opposed to, what is going on. And anyway, I thought that George C. Scott and John Woodward did really good jobs with their acting and everything. The version I saw, the link from Tom, parts of it were missing that I've seen before in this movie, but parts of it were missing. The supermarket scene is much longer in the full movie. And there's essentially a war going on nearly in the supermarket, and to get the protagonist out of it, the policemen that are tailing along get involved with, I think, buying some meat or doing something. So unfortunately, you kind of lose the end of the movie when you look at the version that Tom sent, because you're missing a key thing there. I think there's another section that maybe was cut out. Jack Gifford, who was the guy in the like the bookshop kind of area that had the he was going to be the Scarlet Pimpernel. I think some of what he said and did is also kind of cut out. Anyway, the movie's about imagination. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I know there's different versions, different lengths of this film, and things are added and subtracted and all of that. So I don't know. You would think the director would put his best shots in there and not remove things that didn't make sense, unless perhaps somebody else did the editing and he was long gone from the thing. Okay, let's see. You were number 9. Let's see, 9. Next is Tony, NT5TM. And then after that, poor Virginia, NV5F. You'll be next after that. I should have put you right on top because you're brand new to the net. But I just did this randomly, really. I did do them randomly. So NT5TM, Tony, go ahead. Your thoughts on the plot.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everyone who shared their comments. I really enjoyed the Triangle Man version. I do note that, of course, we did have Dr. Worm in this movie. She was a real doctor, although she was not a real worm, and a great twist on the original song. So yeah, I really, really enjoy They Might Be Giants. So does Aaron. We love listening to them on road trips. Great fun, great band to see live, really something. Some people like Weird Al who have fun albums are just not that interesting in person, and They Might Be Giants. Well, that's not true. As far as the actual movie, I will make a point of watching it again at some point in the future, because I had that same kind of reaction that Brenda did on the first time. I got drawn in by all these quirky, interesting, eccentric characters. I was having a very good time, and then the plot just seemed to fizzle. Why are there all the stories that were started that are drifting off into the ether? I don't know. I am confused. I am sleepy. My take on that was actually a little different. I was wondering if that was meant to show that we were becoming our own unreliable narrators, if we were drifting off into Holmes's imaginary world. And so we had lost all the threads of the actual plot and had disappeared because he couldn't see it either. I wondered if that was a way that we were meant to identify with him more. I did, in the version I saw, I did get to see the full grocery store scene. I did kind of think it was totally relevant to the movie in some respects, but it was a fun piece of American social satire. The ultimate way to distract people is by offering them bargains. The police are chasing you. Well, tell them that prime rib is 50 cents a pound over in the next aisle, and they'll suddenly change their minds about their priorities. Probably not true of any officer I know, but it's a great way to make fun of us as Americans. NP5TM, and Tom, I apologize, I'm going to have to switch to listening only mode. I'm just too sleepy.
All right, thank you, Tony, and good point, and it does kind of segue into something I wanted to say about it, too, based on what David said at the very beginning. Okay, I've listed you as checked out. Have a good evening, and thank you for your comments. I think they were rather insightful. All right, next up is Virginia, NV5F, Virginia, and then followed by WT9V. So, Virginia, go ahead. Your comments on the plot. Welcome to the net.
Okay, thank you. This is NV5F, and I do enjoy this net. I've actually participated one other time a few weeks ago and remembered about it tonight and did watch the movie, and I found it to be it's kind of the type of movie that I enjoy. I sort of like, I've always kind of lived in my own alternate universe in some ways, and I appreciate movies that showcase those kinds of characters. So it's kind of, interesting to me, that moment in the movie where you figure out that this guy who's Sherlock Holmes really isn't Sherlock Holmes, but then it's kind of one of those stories where by the end you're sort of wondering, well, maybe he is. And the plot where he and Dr. Watson fall in love was pretty obvious from the beginning that was what was going to happen, but it was interesting me how Justin had developed this uncanny ability to figure things out. He had, studied his character so thoroughly that he believed it, and by the end, I think she wanted to believe it, and I think that was kind of the point of the way it ended, because it did feel like a very sort of kind of one of those endings that at first it seems like it does fizzle out. And I do kind of have to wonder if maybe they came up with this really great concept and weren't sure how to end it, because it almost seems a shame for it to end any other way except, leaving you wondering, because the only other alternative is to, bring this character back to reality. And I think the whole point was the need for people to have adventure in their lives, and to have something heroic happen to them, and kind of the rut we all get stuck in, and that this doctor was in, and that she that this man missed his wife, and that she needed somebody to love, and it was I really liked the story. I liked how she fell in love with him and how he fell in love with her, and I thought the scene where they had the date in her apartment was really cute, and I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy the movie. I was kind of ready for it to have a more resolved ending, but I do think the ending was kind of one of those things that leaves it to your imagination, and you can kind of imagine that these two characters might just like ditch the whole world and run off on a never-ending adventure where everything is a clue that leads them somewhere else, and maybe the story never does get resolved, because it just kind of is this chain reaction of clues that take them from one place to the next, and that's kind of how the movie went, and I was enjoying just wondering where it was going to go. So anyway, I am also going to have to check out. I need to get to sleep, but I've enjoyed participating, and hope to be around some more. So thanks a lot, and back to net. This is NV5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and there's always a place. Come on back next week. We'll see you there. Oh, and by the way, just to remind everyone, don't forget, you can go to Afterglow Movie, two words, Afterglow Movie, on the Facebook page if you want to go there to sign up and get all the movie information. Forgot to mention that was at the beginning of the net. Or you can send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray, KE5ICX @yahoo.com, and let me know that you want to be placed on the list, and I will send you the movie list. I do that almost religiously every Sunday morning when I get up and have coffee. I'll let you know what the movie choice was for the following week, and that'll give you an opportunity to go see to watch the film ahead of time. Okay, next up is WT9V. That would be Michael, and then I'll take additional check-ins, and then I'll give my comments on the plot. So WT9V, Michael, go ahead. What did you think about the plot?
I thought you were going to be in the middle of the list. Neither here nor there. My brain's kind of fried. I have tested 60-something people since last Friday. But, okay, so things have been busy. I don't know. I watched part of it, because testing, given exams last night, and have gotten through. It made absolutely no sense coming in the middle, so that's why I went back to watch the beginning of it, and it's like, okay, that makes sense, okay, I haven't quite gotten to where I came in last night, so, and, then Bill says that there's pieces missing from that copy, so I'm in search of the Blu-ray copy of it, actually, but that's going to take a little while, even on fiber, but I kind of liked it. I mean, it was interesting, although I still haven't figured out why Patton was dressed up so funny. But that's okay, different strokes, different folks, etc. I don't know. I'm kind of haven't figured it out yet, so I'm not sure what I think, but I like it enough that I'm going to find a better copy, or another copy, or an allegedly, although I don't know if I trust Bill, an allegedly more complete copy so that things make a little bit more sense. I like it. It's kind of fun, kind of weird. Anyway, it's fun. I think I'll throw it back to you, Tom, and see what kind of amazing, mind-bending analysis that you have come up with, because we all know how you are. And congratulations to Eric. It was a lot of fun actually signing his CSCE or his general. WT9V.
Okie dokie. Well, all right. Yes. Well, the thing is that the missing scenes apparently are available. The supermarket scene is available on YouTube. Just have to go find it. The missing supermarket scene for They Might Be Giants, and you can watch, I guess, the whole thing. I don't know. It's probably in blurry vision, but that's the way it is. All right, before I give my analysis, I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. Did you see the movie They Might Be Giants from 1971? All right, I suspected not, but let's see here. Looking over on Echolink, I think we're okay. All right, the thing about the movie is this. I did not see the last couple of minutes, believe it or not, and apparently that was important. But the thing that I did get out of the film, and I think David hit upon it, is the alternate reality is what we do. We want to live in a different world. He had certainly been through this terrible thing with his wife dead. He was an analytical guy. My gosh, he was a judge. He was an attorney. He was a guy who knew lots of small details, and he decided to do it in a more creative way, maybe to solve the crime that was important to him, which ended up being not a crime, not Moriarty, but finding Watson, someone that he could, in this case, fall in love with, which actually they've done that with kind of plots afterwards, with that kind of situation. I think it was nicely done. I think that the characters were delightfully quirky. That was blast, and I know that's characterization coming up, but I think that's what it's about. It ends incomplete because we don't know how our lives are going to be until the very last second. You know, how it's all going to play out in the end. I think that's kind of what's interesting and left to your imagination. And that those type of films are risky because a lot of times they also leave people unsatisfied because you want to have that complete fifth act. When you don't get that, you feel cheated. You know, think about what was the last scene from The Sopranos. Don't stop believing, you know. I mean, okay. Was that a good ending? Depends on whether you're a completist or not, or whether you take paintings and you make sure that they're exactly on the wall, or you use the spoon and don't and stir the coffee and then put it into the sugar. You might not like that, and as such, then you've got this dislike for the conclusion. If you're okay with ambivalence and coming up with the decision yourself as to how it all ends, then you're good. I think most of it was the journey. Now, was the movie constructed really well? Probably not. Probably not. There were things missing from it, and he forbade the production of the play after that. So it suggests that there were some major problems with it, and that James Goldman here probably didn't like it ultimately. And we keep seeing people mess with stuff all the time. Now, he's been dead since 1998, so we'll never get an answer out of him. So, oh my God. He did The Lion in Winter. Wow. Anna Karenina. Oliver Twist. All right, this is no lightweight. White Nights. Screen. All right, I'm digressing here. Obviously, he was an A-list guy. I just didn't know that. I guess he just got kind of, well, maybe this is his starter thing. I happen to love Lion in Winter. That's one of my favorite plays and one of my favorite movies. So that should tell you something right there. It makes my teeth ache. I love that movie, and I love that play. The stage manager for Lion in Winter once. All right, let's do this. We have a bunch of people checked in. There's 14 total people checked in. So let's do this. I will take you in order. If you want to talk about characterization, just come with your call sign now. I'll put you down, and you can actually do this in the order that you like. We'll just mix it up a little bit. So if you have something to say about characterization, please come with your call sign now.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo, Bravo.
November 5, India Mike Sierra.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Echo.
All right, very good. We'll start with those. I got W5EVV. David, go ahead, and then N5IMS, and then K5ANE. So, David, start us off.
All right, thanks, Tom. Well, there are lots of minor characters in this movie, but each with unique personalities that contribute to the humor of the movie, like the arboriculturist couple who had not been outside their home in years. Quote, "We haven't stepped outside since 1939. We didn't like the look of things out there." I like the character Wilbur, Justin's last friend, who is accepting of Justin's alter ego, Sherlock Holmes. Wilbur tries to distract Justin from ruminating too much about his identity, using jelly donuts and chicken broth as distractions. You get the impression that Wilbur knows the details of Justin's life and perhaps knows the trauma that caused his mental breakdown, and the suppression of painful memories by adopting the Holmes character was perhaps not such a bad thing. So in this regard, Wilbur was really a compassionate character. Let me reset. So near the end, did Dr. Watson accede to submit to Justin's madness because of love? To imagine to see and hear things not there, or just claim to see and hear them to appease her new love? Did love blind them or save them? Were those bright lights behind them a train, a horse and carriage, a car, and they were about to be hit and killed? Or as Virginia said earlier in the net, maybe this was just going to advance them to the next chapter of their experience and adventure. It's left to the viewer to decide and maybe to contemplate from a metaphysical perspective. W5EBB.
Gosh, how do I respond to that? I can't. But very interesting. N5IMS, JJ, your comments on characterization?
Well, first off, it's a given that they had some A-list stars, so obviously the acting would be good, and that's kind of a given. But even the lower end, where you just had the people like from the theater or from the arborists and things, even those, they may not have been A-list stars, but they did play their characters very well, and they filled in pieces that I don't think the movie would have been the same if those pieces were not done as well. So, even though they might be minor pieces, it's just like you had a puzzle piece with one missing if one of those actors did not do their part quite as well. What would you see with that puzzle up there on the wall? You got a piece missing. So kind of that type of thing. But I really did enjoy it. I thought they did their job well. They played it well, and they played off each other very well. So I really enjoyed it and thought it was good. I'll leave it at that and send it back to Net. This is N5IMS.
Very good. Thank you, JJ. And I was looking at the thing here on our James Goldman. He did Lion in Winter before They Might Be Giants. That was in 1968. Giants was in 71. He did the script for Nicholas and Alexandra, Robin and Marion in 76. White Knights, which I thought was a great movie, great story, in 1985. He also did... here it is, Follies. He did the book for Follies and was nominated for a Tony for Best Book of a Musical. Obviously not the music, that's Stephen Sondheim, but he wrote the book. Sondheim doesn't do simple stuff, so I think that there's something about this guy and his ability to at least write characters, I think that's really important. God, there's more here. Anna Karenina, Oliver Twist. Geez, maybe I should pay more attention to this guy. Next up, K5ANE. Kane, tell us about your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
This is K5ANE. I have to say, the characters and the fact, all of these characters, even all these minor characters, play an important role in the underlying meaning of this story. And all of them really do a good job at really kind of driving you to ask the question, is he really that crazy? When we see all the other normal people in the film, they're all really boring people, except for that one lady that, I guess she might have also been a little crazy, looking for the person on the phone who was committing suicide. You know, I mean, the switchboard ladies were all, you know, not really likable people and just really monotonous kind of people. And, you know, the police officers were easily duped and, you know, not creative at all. And, you know, it just goes on and on with, you know, all the normal people are just these really boring characters for the most part. Whereas all the crazy people are the ones that actually kind of seem normal when you really think about it. You know, you've got the you know, the crazy people in the theater, you know, that, you know, the homeless guy, I guess, that like lives in the theater and just sleeps there all the time, and the ultra excitable lady in the back and things like, and the you know, the lovers in the back, you know, going at it all the time or whatever, grooving, I guess it was what they were saying. You know, you've got the people that are holed up in their, you know, school, but I mean, they're like geniuses, right? I mean, they're making absolute beautiful art. They're just really kind of quirky, but they're great in their own strange way. And so I think that's really what they're trying to showcase here in this movie, is that, you know, people can be kind of strange and live in their own world, but is that really a problem? Is that really something that we should be trying to fix all necessarily? And, you know, maybe we should try and figure out what our strange is, because maybe that's what makes us interesting. This is K5A&E, back to net control.
Well, Keen, excellent comments, and I agree with you. Before I came to Dallas years ago when I was lived in Detroit, and I don't tell people this very often, but I will tonight because there's nothing to hide or anything like that. I did a lot of theater. I did a lot of stage work. I even did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff as well. I even had a lead role in a show as a psychopathic killer. So, you know, I drew from my personal experiences on that one, and it was a lot of fun. And the thing about it is, and what you find is especially when you get involved with folks like that, that are also doing theater, is they, A, become a family, B, they become immersed in their role, C, they become somebody else. And as such, they take on a persona. I've seen that happen in shows when you go and you do a production and you work 3 months until you do the stage, till you go on stage and do it for an audience, and people change. They change in the process because they're constantly immersed in the roles. So when you think about that sort of thing, it makes perfect sense. Why not? You know, we do have a tendency. We create kind of our own world view of things, and but the most interesting people are the ones that are, and sometimes just kind of out there, a little weird, a little quirky. We all like to think we're unusual, and some of us are somewhat unusual, and some of us are really unusual, and some of us are plain crazy. Where that line's drawn between those three categories, I don't know. You can have to decide for yourself, or have a professional do it for you. Sometimes that happens. And then sometimes the physical evidence suggests that maybe you've gone a little too far because you're not allowed to go anywhere. Another thing too is that I'm a big fan of science fiction, and all of us are because we're doing the science fiction movies. But I've been to several conventions through the years, science fiction conventions. I went to Marcon up in Columbus, Ohio, which is still a very popular one. And people get together and they do the costumes and the costume parties and things like that, and it's transformative. People see them on the street and they go, those people are nuts. No, they're not. They're having a good time. They're being somebody different, or they're being themselves, or they're being something in between. What difference does it make? So relating to that, I think, is an important part of it, and I think that's what this movie was trying to do with the characters. And I think you all make excellent points about the fact that the characters bring a relevance to people who are watching the film in a way that is either really comfortable or not so comfortable. It kind of depends on how comfortable you are with yourself, you know? I don't know. I think that's kind of the thing that resonated with me with it. All right. Anyone else on characterization? Then I'm going to call for a final round on anything else. So anything else on characterization? Come now.
WB50ZL.
Inside BB.
All right, I think this will work out. WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, you're first, and then Bill. Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay, WB50ZL. You think, how do you know if somebody is crazy? And usually it's because they have a break with reality. They can't tell fantasy from reality. But Wayfarer did know who he was. He just couldn't remember. So in a sense, he hadn't really broken from reality in the sense that insane people normally do. So, you wonder what his future is. You wonder if a psychiatrist is going to put up with all of his play acting, or if she's ever going to say, look, we got to get to work, or we got a reality check here. Would like to know what happens in the future. She might not care. I once heard a therapist say that just because somebody's crazy doesn't mean you can't get along with them. This is a marriage counselor was making this point, which I thought was interesting. It's just all about how it works. All right, back to net, W50ZL.
All right, this is why we have professionals, to find out who's crazy and who's not. That's why we have professionals, so that we can make these determinations without having to sit here and say, I don't know. Especially, somebody's got to put the straitjacket on them. Okay, N5BB. Bill, do you have comments on the characterization? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Yeah, I decided I wanted to say something after all. First, and this isn't directly about the movie, there's a recent research that just came out, and I have to go back and look at where it was from. I can't remember. That some heavy-duty research on personality tests that people have done indicates that quite a few people, their basic personality changes over their life. So they don't necessarily realize this, and people that know them may not even realize it because everything just kind of slowly bends and changes over the years. It's very difficult to see something that slowly changes. My mom had frontal temporal dementia for a few years before she passed away, related to Parkinsonism, and her personality changed. So there was some of her still there, but there was some other part of her personality that changed dramatically. And there were physical things like her ability to write or add numbers, and there were emotional things like your ability to keep things secret that need to be kept secret. So, each of us, we think of ourselves as a person, an ego, an individual with a name. Well, you can change your name. I know people that have changed their names. And your personality whether you realize it or not, probably changes during your life. Anyway, one big thing about this I don't think anybody's talked about is that Justin's wife died, what was it, a couple of years ago before this movie or something like that. His wife died, and that's when he became Sherlock Holmes. So he had that major change in his life. And before that, he was a very regimented, he had been a judge, he'd accumulated a lot of money, he'd done all those regular things, and after his wife died, he kind of wanted to probably bring out other parts of his personality. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't have a personality disorder. I think he did. But anyway, one thing also is that at one point in the movie, in the Jack Gifford, his office, I don't know if it's a bookstore or it's a reference library of some kind. And Gifford comes in, and Holmes has been there all night long. He's asleep on the book. He's been looking at. I think he's looking at old newspaper records and other things. And he was searching for himself, but not Holmes, but he was searching for Justin Playfair. And so he was saying, well, here I'm reading about Justin Playfair, who is who I am somehow, but he says, I don't remember any of those things. So according to the film, he really did not remember any of that previous life. People told him about it, he read about it, but it was literally an alternate person, as far as he knew. Anyway, Inside BB.
KG5P.
And I think you make a good point about the fact that he just completely crowded everything out. We knew he knows, and we know he knows, and through the whole thing. But at the end, he extrapolates. He goes beyond, and he's able to take his Watson and now his girlfriend. This is a way of kind of bridging it. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and now that I know this guy has some gravitas as a writer, maybe this thing didn't exactly work out, but certainly he can. He's no inept fool. He knows how to write for characters, both big and small, so I'll give Goldman a lot of credit for that. All right, we're really close to the end. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Any comments you want to make, any parting comments, now's the time. Please come with your call sign.
KG5P.
W5EBB. W5EBB. W5EBB.
N5IMS.
Okay, very good. I've got KG5P, W5EBB, N5BB, and N5IMS. I will tell you now what the movie will be for next week, because people, I think, are going to start fading after midnight here, and we're 2 minutes away. The movie will be Mysterious Island from 1961, going back to the science fiction thing. It's actually not bad. It has Captain Nemo in it, Mysterious Island, for next week. So let's go to the top, KG5P. Mike, go ahead. And by the way, we're 2 minutes away from this thing going off to normal repeater use, so you should every minute or so or less go ahead and reset. Otherwise, it will time out. So KG5P, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. My good friend Bill got me on a totally different tangent, and I can't complete this in the next 2 minutes, so I'll defer to the next guy. But Bill brought up a lot of great points, and I would like to diverge, but time does not permit. So I'll pass it to the next person, KG5P.
All right, that's fine. We actually kind of have an afterglow after everybody's kind of like pooped out. There's just a few left. Hang around. We'll be here. W5EBB. David, go ahead. Your comments.
Okay, a few comments about the set and the music. Did everyone notice the Times Square scene? How different Times Square is now compared to what it was then in 1971. And I liked Wilbur's cluttered office with books, and more books, and by the window, a stainless steel coffee percolator on a hot plate, and a heavy metal concave desk lamp, and numerous other period pieces hearkening back to a bygone era, a mere 50 years past. Let me reset. The music was like a 1970s caper movie, like Pink Pantherish, often, dissonant and percussive, featuring a vibraphone heavy on the tremolo and vibrato. And near the end of the movie, during the nighttime march, I'm pretty sure the main notes of that theme were the same as from the movie Dune, although played with an upbeat tempo appropriate to the scene. Quirky music for a quirky movie. And my last comment, regarding the Little Prince quote, the human heart can see what is hidden to the eyes, and the heart knows things that the mind does not begin to understand. While a pithy aphorism, I don't completely agree. I would say instead, let me reset for dramatic impact. Rarely there is a confluence of what the eyes see, what the heart knows, and what the mind understands, just as they truly are. W5EBB.
Very good. Thank you, David. I was laughing here and thinking about what you were saying. First off, just down-to-earth stuff. Times Square, that's what we saw in this movie is what I remember Times Square as. It was pretty gaudy, seedy and everything else, even though it was still in the theater district. It was very run down. All that changed when Disney came in. The composer, John Barry. John Barry was no lightweight back then. He also did Lion in Winter, so obviously there was that influence from Goldman on that. He also was the main guy who did all the music for the first, 17 films of James Bond. So that's the guy, the Bond sound. Both interesting comments. N5BB, Bill, your final parting comments. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
Okay, this is N5BB. I just want to emphasize that the version I saw today is quite a bit different from the full film that I've seen before. The full film is 11 minutes longer. And again, the big thing you see that's nearly totally missing in what we saw from this link was the big supermarket scene, which ties a lot of it together. And I just want to point that out. Also, I want to point out that in one sense, the movie is really about Mildred Watson and her life. It really is, if you think about it. Justin Playfair during the movie really doesn't change. Mildred and some other people, but in particular her, really does change, it appears. And you notice how Justin Holmes is able to see her instantly for who she is. So did you listen to how he was describing her life? And she just sat there kind of shocked because he was hitting it right on the head. And then with her trying to cook in the apartment and all the other problems there, the movie is really kind of about her, if you think about it. And BB.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
Yeah, good comments, Bill. I noticed that too. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Very interesting. But that's what Holmes would have done, and she realized that he was kind of special in that way. So another Holmes. N5 IMSJJ, your parting comments. Go ahead.
All right, I've got two comments. One of which is a question to you, Tom. You know, basically how you would have handled what I did in college. It's theater related. But first off, on George C. Scott, in the very late 80s, very early 90s, I was up in Denton for jury duty and had, got the privilege of spending an entire week up there for the trial and everything. But during that time, George C. Scott was filming a made-for-TV movie up there. And of course, we were given an hour or so off for lunch, so we were able to get in there. And this is when the jail or the courthouse was downtown, so we were able to go to the square and eat on the square and do things. And so it was fun. And there was an old store on the square that hadn't changed in decades. I think it's now torn up and, done as something else. But George C. Scott's character basically owned that store. Let me reset.
W5FC.
And, he basically did that. Well, we get to watch some of the things that they were doing over that week, filming in the square and various things. And so, I went in there and couldn't find them filming one day, so I, grabbed something to eat and sat down in the courtyard and happened to look through the windows going into the building in that, and it was a city center or city building, and looking through the windows, they were filming inside there, so I could watch them filming through the windows. And, obviously nobody came to, get rid of me or move me out of the way or anything, but later on when I saw the movie on TV, I could see my blurry image out in the courtyard eating during parts of that scene, so that was kind of fun. Now I got my question for you, Tom. Let's see, in college, we would help out with the little theater group, and my job would be sound effects and lighting. So we would go in there and do lights and stuff and get that set up, and all that stuff was in advance. But the sound effects were something that I kind of did on my own, and the radio station was up on the second floor of that building, and there was a back door to get in where they used to have the spotlights, but now that they had the lights built in to there, they didn't need to use those anymore. Let me reset again. But that was a perfect place for me to do my sound effects, because I could come and go as I wanted to. When I needed to do something at the radio station, didn't have anything needed during the plays, then I could go in there. But I could watch what was going on, so I didn't have to worry about, the thing. When the actor would push the button for the doorbell, I could push my button and the doorbell would ring and things. But so it was a very nice place. But I always scheduled, the last week after we got all the lighting and everything done and everybody had their place and whatever, and they would do their individual practicing, we always had 2 nights where they did a full run-through of the play, and then after that were the 2 dress rehearsals, which was basically just as if things were live. But what I would do, the first run-through, everything was fine. The second run-through is where I had my fun. Let me reset again. And my fun was I would always modify the sound effects so that, maybe you had a doorbell ringing. Instead of the normal doorbell sound you would hear, you'd have a duck quacking or something, just to kind of break the tension up, but still give them their timing and things. And so that was fun. You know, when you were in the stage, how would you have handled something like that? You know, especially the time when I had one person, they were supposed to pick up the phone and dial the operator and said, "Operator, this is, 4698 or whatever. It's an emergency. It's a matter of life and death." Well, I wasn't expecting them to actually dial the thing, because before they just kind of ran their finger through. Well, that time they had it picked up and dialed. And of course they dialed the campus operator. And they got the, it's a matter of life and death by the time they got in. And then she screamed, hung up the phone real fast, and the operator, of course, hit the dial back button, and nobody answered, nobody touched it. And, that was kind of fun. How would you have handled something like that back in your stage days? This is N5IMS.
I can't even begin to tell you, JJ. I will tell you this. I'll tell you one story, and, I guess we could say, well, the net's over. So I'll say the net's over. We can do whatever the hell we want now. But I was in a summer rep called Royal Hunt, and it was 3 shows they were doing, and they were rotating them on the weekends. And Royal Hunt of the Sun was the show, the Peter Schaffer story about Pizarro in the Inca Empire in Atahualpa, and their supposed encounter. It's a very intense show, and it's really great. And the person who was playing Atahualpa was doing a superb job, as was the guy who was doing Pizarro. They were really tired. If you ever get to see the movie, it's okay. If you can see it as a stage play, you've got to see it. It is excellent. But Atahualpa, our Atahualpa got stuck in traffic on I-75, called in and said, "I can't make it in time for the production." So they sent the stage manager out. Now, the stage manager was kind of this bookish guy with glasses, okay, and very slight. Atahualpa is supposed to be this character that is physically stern, and he runs an empire. He runs the Inca Empire, and this guy comes out. And so what happens is that since he couldn't do the production, they sent the stage manager out with the Samuel French Yellow Book, which is the book you would get to learn your lines, and he's wearing glasses. And he's dressed in this thing that's like 3 times bigger than he is, and the line begins, "Atahualpa speaks, Atahualpa appears," or something, and they have this big, huge symbol thing, and they hit it, and it falls, and it rolls around on the floor. At this point, the Inca Empire is already defeated, and they haven't even had lunch. And I'm playing one of the Spanish soldiers, and I am trying to keep from laughing hysterically. My face is just so tight while this whole thing is going on. And Michael Urban, who is still a friend on Facebook, he was the director of this thing. He did a beautiful job, and he's watching this thing fall apart. The theater is in flames at this point. It doesn't get much better. But then Atahualpa shows up for the second act, and suddenly he appears out of nowhere. It's fantastic. I loved it. So there you have it. What do you do? Not much you can do. But yeah, and I've done the sound effects too, and lighting. I did it for 10 Little Indians for Players Guild of Dearborn, Michigan. That was fun. The telephone stopped working. The doorbell didn't work, so I had to use the telephone so they could go answer the door. Stuff like that would happen all the time. It really would, and that was part of the fun. There was a time too where, I was on stage and we had a scene and the person never came out. So we just moved to the next scene. That was real interesting because we all got up as a group and moved over to the other side of the stage like a group. 5 people just kind of like shifting over because the person didn't come out and do her shot, her scene. She was on the telephone or something. It happens. That's amateur too. That was amateur theater. A lot of fun though. All right. Well, I kind of said we were done. Anybody have any final comments as a group? Otherwise, I'm just going to say bye. So, anybody have anything? Go.
N5IMS, you reminded me of another story.
All right, JJ, I guess it's you and me now. Boy, I did a really terrible job of closing the net. So, net close. Go ahead, JJ.
W5FT.
So the repeaters returned to normal amateur radio service?
Maybe.
I think mainly what it means is we have to make sure we don't time out. I think that's kind of the difference in there, because we often, let's say, have a post-net continuation of the discussion. But Tom, the story you reminded me of, most of my experience was in the little theater, which is, kind of the amateur port. But this university always had both a summer and a winter musical, which was a professional type event using the big stage, the big auditorium, the little theater. If you showed a student ID, you got in free. With this other thing, there was fee charged for admittance and everything. Well, that normally ran 3 nights. First 2 nights went well, and I was basically doing the assistant on the light board, because basically, that light board was big enough and old enough that, for any good production, you needed 2 people to run the things for certain things, because if you locked some of the controls together, it took too much effort to pull it down, so you had to do them individually. Let me reset. But, I was doing that. Well, the third night, we got information right as we showed back up for getting ready for the production that week, that our head leading man was in emergency surgery for an appendectomy. And there was a bunch of things trying to figure out what can they do. Well, we didn't have, basically a replacement character for most of those, because we figured 3 days, you're not, what's the chance you're not going to need one. But, so what we had, and it was a musical, so you also had to know the songs and things. Well, the person who did the light with me was one of the regulars in the little theater, so he knew, the procedure on acting and stuff, but he didn't know the part. So he went out there with that yellow book too and did his part. He was in costume, but he was reading his part. And of course, we announced to the audience, what the general part of the issue was. We had a medical emergency, and so and so is being played by this person, and whatever. Let me reset again. And stuff. And so I got to do the whole light board by myself, which we trained for, because there are times that, somebody has to run off and what have you. But we also had somebody from the music department who came in with an off-stage microphone so they could sing the part for him. And so, that was kind of fun. And, when we were done, we were all ready for that play to be over. This N5IMS.
Oh yeah, the unexpected is always really interesting, especially at the time of the performances. I do that stuff, I always liked the 3 months of rehearsal. It was the night of the performance that scared the heck out of me. But those are the things that took me out. And I remember a couple of times where there's a scene where I was getting garroted, which means you take and you use this thing and you pull it around a person's neck, and then they're supposed to go down from lack of air. You've seen that before in the movies. Well, as it turns out, we actually used a garage in the dress rehearsal, and that was the first time that we'd actually really done it. And there was nothing, it was just play acting. And the character Sydney takes and he garrotes me, and I go down onto the ground, and I passed out. I literally passed out. And when I woke up, I was on stage, but I was rolled in this carpet, this rug. And I woke up, and I realized that I was still in the play. This was a dress rehearsal, so we were doing it all full. And I mentioned it later on that it happened. And of course, the stage manager went nuts, and the director went nuts because they thought, oh, geez, what's going to happen? It happened again on the Saturday night performance. That was a Wednesday, and then on Saturday it happened, and I went out again because your body doesn't know any better. It just assumes something's really happening, plus the pressure of doing the show itself caused that. I never, then or since, passed out, and I passed out twice during that show in 2 weekends, which was crazy. And the same thing happened a second time. I woke up, I'm in this rug. And weird. The other thing was, too, is that I murdered a couple of people in that show, so people afterwards did not want to talk to you. Usually people would come, would come back and talk to you. Well, I was a bad guy, so they wouldn't talk to me at all. It was really weird not having people congratulating. Well, they congratulated you, but it was after you're out of costume and you're going off and having something to eat. But when you're a character, it's much like what we were talking about tonight. When you're playing a character, it doesn't wear off that quickly. People are scared of you if you're playing an evil character, which is kind of fascinating and somewhat powerful, like similar to what we were talking about. I don't know, just weird stuff. KE5ICX.
Yeah, I did love, even though I really didn't do much, on the theater itself, I liked the backstage stuff. Well, I must admit, I was on stage once, and I had the last line of the show, so I closed the show on that. But then again, it wasn't a real, play like that. It was part of a, play production class, and a good friend of mine was in the class, and being the director, and one of the things they had to do was have somebody in the cast that had never been on stage before. So they, I was her guinea pig, so I was the one who hadn't been on stage before, being on stage for the first time. And, it really wasn't bad. I was surprised just how little beyond the front of the stage you could see once the lights and everything were on, which kind of helped out. Plus, it was, a class-related thing, so it wasn't a packed audience or anything. So it wasn't as bad as, in my mind, I had made it out to be. But, I could see it being panicky and everything, too, N5IMS.
Well, good times. All right, I think it's time. Everybody's turned their radios off or gone to bed or sticking, ice picks in their nose or something at this point. So I say 7:03. I'm going to go to bed. Hey, I got an extra day off, which is nice because everybody else is laid off. They have every day off. So, but I get Monday off, so I'm excited. So, JJ, thanks. Enjoyed it. We'll have to do some more of this theater stuff. I'm sure you've got more stories. I know I have a bunch of them. I never picked it up again when I came to Dallas, unfortunately. But I sure had a lot of fun with it back in the 80s when I was doing that. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of friends, and I still talk to a few of them still through Facebook and other means. They're still my friends these many years later. And they haven't changed. She just got older. So, see you later. This is KE5ICX.
Good night, Tom. It's always fun talking about old times. Take care, and see you, if nothing else, next week. This is N5IMS Clear.
W5FT.